Good morning. It is Friday, January the 16th, 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun not yet risen here in upstate New York. I want to talk to you today about Greenland. I went on the 5-8.5 on Wednesday. Lisa Graves, Nadine Smith, back from their break. Great show. If you missed it, we'll put the link here. But I went on to talk about Greenland and ranted a little bit. So thanks to them for letting me rant. But I want to talk about it a little more in depth because I feel like it's of critical importance. And I don't think the level of importance that it is breaking through with all the other horribly important stuff that's happening. I mean, obviously ICE is occupying Minneapolis right now. It is a Gestapo. Gestapo is just the German word, a truncation for secret state police. That's what these people are. They are Trump's secret police, and they're not there to enforce the law. They're not there to do anything lawful. They're there to terrorize us. They're there to terrorize us, and hopefully Trump, wants us to respond violently so that he can declare the Insurrection Act, as he's already said he is itching to do. I don't think he'll do that until closer to the election, which he also said he didn't feel like having. But don't worry, Carolyn Levitt said it was a joke, so I'm sure Trump joking about no elections is probably just a joke, like he said. Also, Venezuela. You've got Venezuela, which even, quote unquote, normal people are talking about. Down in Florida, where I was last week, it was, the topic of conversation. What's going on with Greenland? What's going on with the oil? Everyone's suddenly an expert in heavy oil. The oil in Venezuela is apparently super heavy. So people don't really want anything to do with it. So it's like Trump, in other words, right? Anyway, I want to talk about Greenland because I feel like it's getting lost in the shuffle a little bit. And the implications of Trump sending troops to Greenland are catastrophic. I cannot it's impossible to understate how catastrophic this is. It would be existentially stupid for us to do this. It would be such a gift to Putin. As I said on the show, Trump could fly to the Kremlin, get down on his knees, and lick Putin's boots, and it still wouldn't be an act of subservience as gratifying to Putin as the United States invading Greenland. And I'm going to talk about, why I say that. But first, why people aren't talking about it in the proper way. Once again, we blame the media. I feel like the media is bending over backwards trying to present Trump as this sort of statesman and that he has some sort of policy and that he's trying to impose this very well thought out policy on the Western Hemisphere or whatever the fuck. He isn't. He's a thief. That's all he is. He's a mobster, he's a thief, and he's a Kremlin asset. He is all of those things. And if you look at what he's doing in those terms, everything makes sense. That's the only way that it makes sense. He's not George Washington. He's not FDR. He's not Eisenhower. He's not even Reagan or Nixon. He's just a common thief. That's what he is. So, and I want to read a post by David Roberts, who runs a Substack called Volts, talking about energy and green energy and stuff like that. He has an interesting account on Substack, and I feel like he expressed this really well. He says, the core truth of the Trump era, and the one that journalism is forbidden from stating out loud, that's a key point, right, is that Trump has gathered around him a constituency of the country's worst people. That's what most distinguishes them. Not economic status, age, where they live, anything else. It's shittiness. Lots of people enjoy watching helpless, marginalized populations being ritually persecuted and humiliated. That puts that in quotes. Two ways you can go with this. Either you can redefine that behavior as non-shitty, just another choice among others, or you can accept that Trump is a phenomenon of shitty people. The media has bent over backwards to take the first option. They tell us it's coastal liberal condescension to judge people harshly for enjoying cruelty visited on weak, marginalized populations. It's just a rural way of life. You libs don't get it. They're mad about NAFTA, something, something. Predictably, when all of the media is filled with the message, hey, shittiness is just part of being a real American, the result is that Americans get shittier and shittier, and public life becomes unbearable. So, TLDR, pathetic, contemptible failure of elites everywhere you look. And I feel like that really sums it up for me. You know, what I've been trying to express what the media is doing. It's like, that's what it is. You look at Trump's cabinet, it's just assholes everywhere you look. Just cruel, sadistic, weird assholes. And Trump falling asleep. You know, my wife, I was talking to her about this last night, and she made a good point where, you know, when Trump is in his Oval Office, he's like a little child, right? He's surrounded by all these people. He's sitting, they're all standing around, and he feels safe. He feels safe in his little bubble, his little cocoon, and then he feels so safe that he go to sleep. He go to sleep like a little baby. So that's what we're dealing with. A guy, an old man who falls asleep like he's a little child, a bunch of rapacious, cruel assholes, and a media bending over backwards to pretend that that's not the case. So that's what we're dealing with. But the reality in Greenland is something much, much worse, right? And like, okay, I want to talk, I want to show you Chris Murphy, Senator Chris Murphy. I give the Dems a lot of shit. When I give the Dems shit, I'm really talking about the Democratic leadership. I'm talking about Schumer, who again yesterday just, I don't know who this guy is or what. I don't even know who he's working for at this point. Not the people in New York, not the people in the United States. He's just it's so out of touch. But I want to share, what Chris Murphy said, because I feel like this is really important, to look at. So let's take a look at this.
So what you are essentially talking about here is the United States going to war with NATO. The United States going to war with Europe. I kind of can't believe that I'm going to talk to you about the consequences of invading Greenland, but I am, because you have to take Trump seriously now. Nobody thought that we were going to be invading Venezuela or running their country a few months ago, and now we are. So he says he wants Greenland. He says he's keeping the military option on the table. So let's just talk about what that means. Here's what you need to know. It's sort of a basic thing. Greenland is a part of Denmark. Denmark is a NATO country. And the NATO treaty says that if any member is attacked, then all the other members have to come to their defense. So what you are essentially talking about here is the United States going to war with NATO. The United States going to war with Europe. You're talking about the US and France being at war with each other over Greenland. We can't sort of sugarcoat this. Like, that is what we're talking about here. Now, every NATO country would have to make a decision whether they were going to rush troops to Greenland to fight America. Some maybe wouldn't, some might. Who in the United States of America wants a war between the United States and Europe over Greenland? And Donald Trump, he just sees the world in terms of real estate, right? He's not trying to fix any of your problems. He just wants a ballroom. He wants a big land mass that he probably thinks is a lot bigger than it actually is because he looks at the wrong map projection. But you're talking about war between the United States and Europe. And so it's kind of insane that we have to explain this to him and to the American public. But understand that that's where we're at right now. The President of the United States entertaining an attempt to take Greenland by military force, which, by definition, might end up putting the United States in a shooting war with France.
So that's Senator Murphy, again, going to war with NATO, like France and Germany and England and these countries that are, and Canada, are allies, in other words, are allies. But I want to read something that Malcolm Nance wrote on Twitter. Malcolm Nance, intelligence guy, went to Ukraine to, in a military way, has been on Trump Russia for longer than I have, has books about it. Super smart guy. So this is what he has to say. He's responding on Twitter to somebody who is sort of rah-rah about the idea of taking Greenland. Consequences for dumbasses. You are a fucking idiot. If we invade Greenland, we go to war with 31 nations. NATO stays together, but without us. Its headquarters is in Brussels, not the Pentagon. Our global reach across the Atlantic will end with our closest refueling base in Israel or Egypt. 100,000 American soldiers will be forced to board civilian airliners and sent home or be taken as POWs/detainees without weapons or equipment. Canada will close its airspace and sea space. U.S. ballistic missile defense at Patuxent and Flyingdales ends, which means we see nothing except what space sensors can see. U.S. intelligence is reduced to Fort Meade, Fort Gordon, and Colorado Springs in Hawaii. CIA spies will be rolled up by their former friends in hours. No one will share anything with us. All global shipping will be closed to us. Denmark operates the largest shipping company in the world. 6 out of 10 global shipping companies are in Europe. World's biggest container ships, Denmark. Australia, New Zealand, Canada are Commonwealth, so they will cut ties with us or be neutral too. P.S. Denmark and locals turn all life support and generators at Patuxent, and Canada resupplies it. All 150 U.S. Space Force personnel will become POWs to guys on sleds. FYI, they have troops there now and 35,000 caribou hunting rifles. FYI, France and UK have nukes, hundreds of them, so you cannot intimidate them with that. Oh, and they collapsed the U.S. economy by sanctioning us and selling off $2.3 trillion in U.S. treasuries simultaneously. Also, no Botox, Ozempic, or insulin. It's made in Denmark, you fucking dope. And as somebody else said, so are Legos. So those are the ramifications, which that's just off the top of his head. There's probably other unforeseen things. It would be catastrophically bad. There is no pretext for doing this. There's no pretext. Now, we can sit here and say that Trump doesn't have the legal right to go get Maduro. He doesn't. But even that has some historical precedent for us with Noriega. Hitler invading Poland had more justification than Trump taking Greenland. Think about that for a second, okay? At least Hitler had a reason. This is just plunder. There's no reason. It's pure plunder. And for who? Ronald Lauder, who's been, mixed up in this Kremlin stuff for decades. In fact, it was at his party where Trump first met the Russian ambassador and started this whole Moscow Trump-Russia thing years ago, right? This Nepo baby whose mother was the perfume lady. We're gonna destroy the entire United States for that fucking guy. JD Vance is salivating about it. He doesn't care. It's he's just a lapdog for Peter Thiel and Elon Musk because there's some sort of some weird rare earth bullshit that they need to do their little AI creepy shit. That's for that. We're going to destroy everything. Okay? For Nepo baby perfume boy, who's, a little bit too close to the Kremlin for my liking. And for 2 other rich assholes who are, basically Sauron. And those 2 were, white supremacist Nazis. But whatever, let's do it. It'll be great because, I don't know, does Trump think that the Greenland's bigger than it is? Does he think there's going to be an ice shortage and we can't just make ice? Everything's about ice these days, right? So one more thing that I want to talk about with Greenland, though, Murphy brought this up and Nance brought it up. We're going to be at war with 31 other countries. We're also going to be at war with ourselves. It is point blank illegal to invade Greenland. There's no military reason to do so. The consequences, as we discussed, are dire, like beyond 5-alarm fire. It's just unthinkably awful what would happen. So if any military person goes into Greenland, that's obeying an illegal order, right? And in fact, the reporting shows that the military has resisted so far, even planning this, which is great news for us. If some members of the military, if he can find people to go do this, and maybe he will, he found people to, shoot fishermen in boats in Venezuela for fun, then it really triggers something else because we're also part of NATO. It's illegal for the U.S. military to invade Greenland, but what is lawful is for us to abide by the fucking North Atlantic Treaty. So the rest of the military has the legal onus to defend Greenland from the invading force, even if the invading force is American. Does that make sense? I don't know what that's going to look like, but it looks like, the recipe for civil war. Because I'll tell you right now, I ain't going to war with Europe. I would rather New York secede from the Union and tell these people to go fuck themselves than go to war with our allies. And I think I'm not alone in feeling that way. And if lots of military people agree that, abiding by a lawful treaty outweighs a patently illegal invasion that would have catastrophic impact on the United States and probably end it, the country is going to fracture. It just is, which again is what Putin wants. And that's what I mean when I say Trump could go to the Kremlin, get on his knees and lick Putin's boots, and it wouldn't be more humiliating and more of a gift to Putin than this. So one of the points that Nadine Smith made on the 5/8 on Wednesday, after I went into my Greenland rant, she said, Greenland is like the Archduke. And I was like, wow, you're right. Because, that's how World War I started. That was the trigger point when Princip assassinated the Archduke and his wife in Sarajevo. And it was a little thing in the grand scheme of things, but it caused all these dominoes to fall and wound up with the entire world at war. That's what would happen here. No doubt about it. There's already troops in Greenland now. The Danes have sent troops. The Danes are the fucking Vikings. We don't want to mess with these people. The Danes have sent troops. The France, the Canadians. Europe is not taking this sitting down. The people of Greenland uniformly do not want us there. And if we think sending J.D. Vance somewhere to try to, warm up, try to get them on our good side, then we're really, less in touch with reality than even I think. Nobody wants us there. This is a terrible idea, and it will result in the end of the United States. That's it. I may be wrong. I may be wrong. I may be wrong about my fear of the elections not happening in November, which Trump has now openly joked about several times. I may be wrong. I may be chicken littling here a little bit, but I don't think so because I've been right about everything so far. And even if I'm wrong, it's far better to err on the side of caution than not. We have to assume the elections will not happen and behave accordingly. And we have to do everything in our power to stop this Greenland madness. Everything. It's not sustainable, and it will destroy the United States, destroy our place in the world, hurt everybody in ways that people can't even imagine in terms of day-to-day life. And it's also just a shitty thing to do, which makes sense because, again, like Dave Roberts pointed out, Trump is shitty and he's surrounded by shitty people. We're a government of shitty Nazis. That's what we've become. And it's incumbent upon us to try to remove the shitty Nazis from power. And I would like the Democrats to follow the lead of people like Chris Murphy and Ron Wyden and others and, boot out Schumer and Jeffries. We need voices in there that actually understand the threat that we're up against. And those two guys have no fucking idea. Or they do, and they just I don't know. Maybe they got promised a little piece of Greenland, like Otis in Superman 2, Otisville. Oh my God, that's where we're at. We're making parallels to Superman 2, with General Zod. So, and again, I don't want to alarm everybody. I don't think this is going to happen. I think cooler heads will prevail here. But it's definitely a possibility. And I want to make sure that everybody understands how dire it would be. More dire than anything. So that's all I've got for this week. That's plenty. So stay safe out there. If you're going to protests, know your rights. Be careful with these ICE guys. They're Gestapo, and they're there to hurt you. That's what they're there for. So be aware of that. Film everything, stream everything, document everything. Make sure people know where you are. But keep protesting. Keep letting your voice be heard, because it's working. It's working. And despite of all of this horror around us, I still feel like, and maybe I'm being naive, I still feel like we shall prevail.